Welcome to another episode of Money You Should Ask. I'm your host, Bob Wheeler, and in this episode, we're going to explore, question, examine, converse, dig deep, expose, laugh, and cry about the money beliefs, money blocks, and life challenges of our next guests. Turn up the volume, listen, learn, and laugh.
Do you feel like you're going through the motions in life, but not really living it? Do you long for more love, pleasure, and joy in your life? The Institute of Core Energetics offers webinars, workshops, and training programs designed to take you on a deep inner transformational journey that will help you develop more meaningful relationships with the people around you and embody the life you long to live. If you want real, lasting, and significant changes in your life, come join us for one of our free virtual community events. To register for the Money Summit and learn more about us, visit www.coreenergetics.org.
Well, I am excited for a second attempt to have these wonderful guests with us today. We met through FinCon originally back in Houston a couple of years ago. FinCon is an amazing group of people all getting together that want to help other people about finances in every aspect. And so it's been a really great group. So we met there, and then I did our outreach to FinCon, and Mark was like, hey, I think we met. And we did. So with us today, we've got Mark Lancia, and we've got Mihaela Jekic. Yay. And
Yay.
Mihaela is a money coach, author, speaker, who empowers professionals and business owners to get their money right and build a business and life they love. She's reviewed thousands of business plans and pitches. She's gone from losing everything during the Bosnian Civil War and being a refugee to earning a Ph.D. and performing twice on TEDx stage. She speaks and conducts workshops on personal transformation, resilience, and financial freedom. Mark is a personal finance coach, cost savings expert, author, and speaker. He has saved companies tens of millions in parts and labor and helped many individuals build freedom and wealth by focusing their time, energy, and money on what truly matters to them. While earning his industrial engineering degree, yes, engineering, he has pursued his passion for music, playing hundreds of shows, recording 4 albums, and performing in front of tens of thousands of people. Together, Mark and Mihaela have helped many businesses and individuals get out of debt to thrive doing what they love. They've also co-authored a book, Money for Meaning, Philosophy for a Life of Extraordinary Freedom. Welcome, both of you. I'm so glad to have you back.
Glad to be here, Bob. We're excited.
Yes, and by the way, we are married.
Oh,
so people are probably thinking, like, what is the relationship here? What is it?
I just met her down the street.
She was just
like, hey.
walking along. You guys thought, hey, let's write a book, but keep your distance. Keep your distance.
It's what, 9 years now, married, and together 13 years.
There
wow. Yeah.
Wow, that's cool. And you haven't killed each other yet. That's good, especially during COVID.
Just flesh wounds.
Oh, okay.
Well, I used to be a fencer, a sword fighter, so he can't mess with me.
That's right. You're going to win. You're going to win.
Factor.
Well, let me ask you this. So, Mark, we're talking about finances, and you're an engineer. Are the engineering stereotypes true?
Oh, my God. Well, that's a double-edged sword. So I'd say a chunk, yes. I hate to say this. So I'm an industrial engineer. So that was ISE, Industrial Systems Engineering, as the abbreviation, which everyone said was easy because it wasn't the hardest engineering.
Oh.
But let me tell you, it was still in the top 3 in earnings. But, it is what it is. But, yeah, I took the easy route. But, several of the engineers are definitely – the communication skills aren't the best, and a lot of them are living on that spectrum. But I got mad love for them. Yeah, go ahead, Bob.
Do you think being an engineer is what helped you to like save money for companies in terms of costs and parts, and being slightly anal is the way I think of engineers?
It's part of that. So it was always my nature to be kind of thrifty. And then when I was originally started out in double E, which is electrical engineering. And there's a saying, you can't spell geek without double E. But I didn't cut it. So we went on, and I went to industrial engineering, and I learned the first class I took was like lean manufacturing, which is basically just how to be frugal with a company and how to be efficient, and we just gelled. And so I took that and then went into business, for a business minor and so on. But the engineering, the problem solving side of that, like how can I make a better mousetrap? How can I be more efficient with the resources? That was in my life personally. And then now I actually created my own job 5 years ago where professionally, that's all I do. I created my own cost innovation team. That's all I do is save the company millions of dollars, just finding problems that no one else sees and getting solutions. And it's actually it's a little nerdy, but it's fun. I have fun with it.
That's cool. Now, do you have a better mousetrap at your house?
Well, no mice right now, but
it
is getting winter time, so they're going to try to creep in and get some of that free heat.
And by the way, so my background is in engineering as well.
Oh,
so
no.
That's kind of funny. I know, our poor children.
She out-nerds me. I'm just going to say that. She's got more degrees than I have. So.
I do, yeah. My doctorate is in engineering.
God bless her.
Well, so that seems like then you maybe both don't speak the same language, right? Right? Because engineers don't speak. Or sort of. I don't know.
A little sign language.
Yeah, we're not typical, though. I mean, there are some engineers who are pretty cool and who pursue other passions. But, Mark was really into music and, playing with his band, recording albums. And during those same years, I was a competitive fencer. So I was on the captain of the fencing team in college, and I competed at the national level. So I don't know, it exposed us to a whole different group of people, So
yeah,
we're not typical in that regard.
No, that's good. Well, we need our engineers. So we'll give them lots of love. So, Mihaela, you're from Bosnia, and you lost everything in the Civil War, and you ended up making it to Ohio because it's a pretty straight, direct route, I think. Tell me a little bit, what was that like? How'd that happen?
Yes, so it happened very quickly. When I was 10 years old, I grew up in Sarajevo, Bosnia, a very normal childhood with my parents, played with other kids, went to school, really nothing unusual. But in the background, there were tensions building. The former Yugoslavia that Bosnia was a part of was ruled by a communist dictator for many years who died in the early 80s and left this power vacuum, basically. So then all these sides, conflicts started to arise. The politicians pointed fingers, at the other side and so on. So almost overnight, a civil war broke out and spread like wildfire. Unbelievable. From, going to school one day to there is waking up to gunfire and the city being barricaded and just literally throwing, packing a car with whatever we could and just getting out. And one of the memories that I will never forget, it's just etched in my mind, is as we were leaving, my mom still hadn't come to terms with, quite what was happening. So she said, I remember her telling me, get some more things, your school books, we could even be gone for 2 weeks.
Wow.
And let's see, 29 years later, I've never seen my childhood home again.
Wow.
That was it. So Then for the next few years, we bounced around. We had family in a safer part of the country who took us in. I changed, I think, 4 schools in a year and a half. We were, refugees, got food packets from the Red Cross. And I still remember standing in line with my mom and my little brother, once a month to get those, just like flour, canned beans and things like that helped us out. Until we finally, 3 years after the war started, ended up starting a whole new life, moving to Canada, to Toronto when I was 13 years old, and just starting over with 2 bags, with nothing to our name. None of us spoke English, which made the first day of high school rather interesting for me.
I would imagine.
What is going on? Where am I going? What are these people saying to me? And definitely a big life change, a big adventure. But I'm so glad that it landed me. And as for Ohio, that was many years later. I'd already was finishing my a degree in engineering in Canada. I was passionate about fencing, wanted to work with a top-notch coach who was at the Ohio State University. So I ended up finding a way to do it, actually getting a full stipend to come to Ohio State and get my degree in biomedical engineering so that I could fence. The worst excuse to get a PhD ever. But it was amazing though. It got me to bronze medal at Canadian National Championships.
Nice.
And just so
hey, if you've got a passion, figure out a way to make it happen, and you did. So even if you have to get a PhD and get an education and have a life, make it work.
Yes, but that is also the reason that I have nothing to do with engineering anymore. I mean, I really burned out by the end of the PhD.
Yeah.
The fencing had kind of run its course. I took it as far as I wanted to, I think about midway through my doctorate, but then there was still the rest of it that I had to finish. And I just remember these, so especially towards the end, these 80, 100-hour weeks. I wasn't passionate about it. It was just going through the motions, working these long hours. I mean, I don't know if I ever cried more in my life. There was this one moment I remember walking home from the lab and, walking by a tree and just like, this sounds crazy, but like grabbing onto a leaf and hanging onto it just to feel something alive because I felt like I was half dead. I mean, so just like there's life. And then there's me, like in this crazy, like prison of sorts. So it was just a terrible fit for me. I ground it out and finished because of, and this is actually a lesson because, I mean, other people may go through this kind of thing in their jobs where they may hate it. They may hate what they're doing, but just like sticking to it out of fear. And that's exactly what I did.
Yeah.
Well, I'm in this far. I've already invested this much. I can't fail now. I'll be a failure for life. I can't change direction. I have to grind this out. Bullshit. I don't know if I can say this, but
you just said it.
Yeah. I said it. I don't know if it will stay in, but I said it.
You said it.
I deserve a master's degree for watching her do it.
That's right.
I mean, it's
now, Mark, you grew up in Ohio, a couple of generations. So I imagine your road to Ohio was a lot different than your wife's.
Just a little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah, it's not quite as twist and turny. No, I was born in Columbus, Ohio. I'm actually still here. I doubt I'll die in Ohio, though. I think we'll be moving somewhere at some point in time, probably in the near future. But I was kind of. It's kind of odd because I have two older brothers who are much older than me, like 12, 13 years older. And they're my brothers, but they were adopted. And my parents had me. I was the accident baby, the surprise baby.
The surprise baby.
Surprise baby. And then my sister after that. So my dad was actually a lot older than all my other friends' parents. So he lived through the Great Depression. And so in some of that fear and that scarcity mindset, well, he taught me a lot of the frugality and just how to be, smart financially, what's a liability, what's an asset. I had to shake off that fear mindset because I'll be honest with you, when I was saving, 50+% of my income by, just renting a room and being very frugal with it and just buying beater cars and, not at the end of the depreciation curve. A big chunk of that was honestly fear. It really was. It's just like having nothing to show for it, and that and then actually probably the last 10 years is when I finally really shook that off and kind of moved from that scarcity to more of an abundance mindset and kind of just take that next step in that natural evolution. But my family, we're all from actually my sister. We're all in Ohio except my sister just left today to Grand Cayman Island. God love her.
Good choice.
Yeah. Good choice. She got a job there, so I'm happy for her. But
nice.
Just I'm third generation Italian, so it's just one of those things. Great grandpa didn't speak English. Grandpa was 8th grade dropout. Dad got an associate's degree, and I'm the first to graduate from college. So it's
awesome.
kind of that path. But we've all been in the Central Ohio area.
Yeah, and it's really interesting just to say how life is strange and brings you together. I mean, we met at an Ohio State campus bar called the Ugly Tuna Saloon.
ugly tuna. Yeah.
The ugly tuna. Yes, I know.
Hey, there you go. Life, has its own set of jokes, right? So,
Yeah.
but let me ask you this. So you mentioned being in a mindset of scarcity and frugality. And I think that's true for me too. I have a month's worth of food in my pantry at all times, just in case, even though I've never needed it. But I think there's a fine line, or there's a balance, because I think frugality helps keep us on point, and then maybe finding that balance where we're actually allowed to have a little bit of pleasure around it and not stay in the fear. You talked about a natural progression, and I think that's the balance. I mean, I used to think frugality was a negative thing, and I'm like, I got to get out of this cheap mindset. But I also think it served me, and then finding that balance. Would you agree, or what's your take on that?
Yeah, I would agree. And, a lot of people think like, oh, Mark, you must have had, all austerity and no fun. Like, that's not like I love to travel, and I would spend money happily on travel. I did like 17 cruises or something by the time I was 30. And a lot of other travel beyond that, Europe and all that. But I just learned how to do it and use the points and find other ways to not, so I wasn't paying for it. I was figuring out a way to make that happen, but still get what I wanted. That was almost the game of it. But I know I agree completely, Bob. The frugality, it's almost a means to an end. And I see people who are frugally mindset, and it served them, but it's not really serving them anymore.
Right.
But the habit subsists, and they continue down this path of frugality. Even though I have friends that are nearly multimillionaires, and they're just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe what. You went to the dentist and you didn't ask them about your teeth grinding. Now I got to pay $40 for you to go back to the dentist. This was a real conversation I had this week.
Wow.
So, but I was just like, wow, but I would be still in that mindset too if I didn't make that step, that there's plenty, there's no scarcity. If you got to pay the dentist $40, it's going to be okay.
Yeah, there is a popular movement, as I'm sure you, Bob, the FIRE movement, financial independence, retire early. And I feel like it served us fairly well in our 20s, or so, because at that stage in life, before having a family and so on, it makes sense to focus on doing, travel was an exception because we really did value that, but everything else to just be relentless about, focus on saving and building that net worth and so on. But yeah, there comes a point where it's just, I've gone through the same evolution as Mark, and I feel like, and then what, right? So you generate enough passive income to not need a 9-to-5 anymore, which we got to, and then what? Then what? It's like this process of self-discovery and what you want to do. I don't want to do, sword fighting anymore, right? So yeah, that's exactly right. And I'm okay in investing in the things that I truly value.
Yeah.
And I would say to any of the listeners out there who are hearing us and go, what? You've got passive income, must be nice. You don't need that to follow your dreams. There's a million ways to live your life now and to follow that career and make those changes and be brave. You don't have to have a big pad in the bank to make that happen. It might help depending on your mindset, how your upraising, and all these different things that let us get to these conclusions. But I would always say, if you've got something you want to do, don't put off to retirement, some future. Find a way to do it now while you're healthy. I mean, this pandemic, if it's taught us anything, it's not take time for granted. I mean, nothing, who could ever imagine this? I mean, none of us, right? We can't even leave the country.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, the circumstances that we find ourselves in. When you talk about going for it now, I feel like in this culture, and maybe it's in lots of cultures, but I feel like there's this belief that we have to work hard and sort of make it a painful effort to have money, and that somehow we're not allowed to actually enjoy it, or that it shouldn't come easy. And I don't know if that's your experience, but I feel like that was sort of some baggage that I had to take, that I took on, that like, oh, I can't have too much fun at this, or I have all these successes, but I'm not enjoying them that much. And don't think I've, it's still work, but there's somewhere where I still have a little bit of an apology if it goes too well.
Man, Bob, I really recently discovered that in the last year or two, what you just described right there. I got into real estate and started investing in notes, which is basically buying debt on like fix and flips and funding these things. They pay a decent 10% plus return and asset protected. I won't go into that, but good return. I'm looking at this money coming in every month and I'm like, this is basically pretty close to what I'm earning, and I'm not doing anything. Literally, there's no toilets for me to fix. The techs just roll in. Then it's just like, wow, money doesn't have to be hard. Doesn't have to be painful.
Right.
It's not like, paying in equals payment out. And that's why we all sweat and do this thing. And that was my father's mindset. And it was my mindset until recently when I just it's real now. And I understand how these things work. It was really a paradigm shift. But exactly what you said, Bob. I mean, what do you think, Mihaela?
Yeah, I agree. And same mentality. I mean, my parents, immigrant parents, right, moved to Canada. They started their own business. My dad would often work these 90, 100-hour weeks, compromise his health. It was always struggling, kind of often teetering on the edge of bankruptcy, then pull it out, then feast or famine, right? Like it goes well, and then everything tanks and so on. So yeah, seeing all that, I think I definitely had some of that same mindset that it has to be so hard.
Yeah.
Right. And you can't enjoy, you don't deserve to enjoy it if it comes easy. So I agree with Mark. It's a continuing evolution. I don't think there's ever a point where we get to, no matter what the age, and say, hey, I've got it all figured out. Right. This is the end of my growth. Like that's the perfect mindset and I got it all. We continue to evolve.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, now let me ask you this. As you continue to evolve, you had different life stories. Mark, whenever you have like a really hard trial and tribulation kind of story, does Mihaela say, yeah, well, you didn't have it as hard as me because I grew up a refugee. And is there any comparisons? I have friends that sometimes, my grandparents lived through the Great Depression. You don't know what hard is. Is there any of that? Jokingly or real kind of?
She throws a bag of powdered milk at me and says, live on this. And then she doesn't do that. But, how do you like that? Yeah. But is it flour? Is it milk? I don't know. Pour water on it. But yeah, that's no, she never has. She's actually never plays the trump card like refugee, boom.
No, never. The only thing I pointed out in the past is I don't like seeing anyone waste food. So, like whether, even if it's a buffet, even if you paid for it, just like don't waste it. That, for some reason, that just bothers me a little bit, but it's a small thing. So
I've gotten better.
But what is that for you that triggers, like what comes up when you see that waste?
Having been hungry and wanting through those years to just like dreaming of having a yogurt or ice cream or anything other than, like flour, oil, powdered milk, beans, things like that. It just like, it was really hard for a while. Yeah. And I was really wanting and desiring all these things that are so available. And I think for that reason, and knowing that there are people in the world who are hungry and in that situation right now, I just don't like that waste.
Well, I think that experience probably gives you a lot of empathy and maybe a lot of gratitude for knowing that we don't always all get what we want. I mean, that doesn't seem to feel true here in the U.S., where I can have whatever I want. And I can have 20 types of it, and I can have it instantly delivered. And so many places in the world, they're just grateful to have a cup of milk, a bowl of rice, basics.
That's exactly right. Like clean water, electricity that works, which during those war years, I mean, it was so in and out. And like those things we do take for granted, honestly. So I think that's where having seen the other side of that really makes me grateful for things that I think most people just don't even think about.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. what are things for both of you that you do not like to spend money on? Or better yet, what does she spend money on that drives you crazy?
Man, I'm trying to think. She does she loves moisturizers and and it's not like these basic, of course, it's like the high end, like this is from an alpaca and it's amazing. It's
poor alpaca.
It's
no,
exotic.
not at all. It's
maybe not an alpaca, but
it's just organic ingredients.
Okay.
And may I say, this is like $100 every 6 months. So we're not talking like crazy here.
get a second job.
We're not the Kardashians here. Okay.
No.
What does Mark spend money on that you're like,
So it's not as much now, obviously, we're in a pandemic, but I think with restaurants, I just don't feel like I get the return on investment in terms of like money spent and the pleasure that I get out of it, right? So to me, that's just not something like love travel, we were aligned on many things, but that's just not one of them, and he's a big foodie.
I like a good piece of meat or fish, and I will happily pay absorbent prices once in a while for like some U.S. Prime or some real, that's my splurge, But yeah, she look at the bill, she's like, oh my gosh, we're gonna spend enough for groceries for the whole week, and
but we're making it seem like for the most part it's there's really no conflict or looking down or bickering or criticizing the other person. He's never mentioned this moisturizer thing before. So
there'll be a process after this session.
That's right, sir.
It doesn't. No one's ever.
There's going to be a couch for you tonight.
That's right. So let me ask you this: do you have weekly or monthly meetings around budget and money and finances, and what does that look like?
Well, quarterly meetings at the very least. Seriously, it's like a corporation going through their like quarterly review, and Mark is so excited about these. I can't even tell you. It is like foreplay to him. It's like, oh my God, let's open up the spreadsheet. Like, look at this. Oh man, like, look, we're charting it out. What's happening here? Pull up personal capital. Oh.
And you're only doing this quarterly?
Right. You got to make it special, Bob.
You got to make it special.
Or oftentimes you like pull up accounts. It's like, oh, what's your password? Like, can we log in and see? It's like, no, like I tried to go to another room just to escape. Like, I don't need to see it, set it and forget it.
It's nice to see a plan come together, Bob. What can I say? And so, I like to see like, oh, my projection, and I don't spend that much time on it, but when there's big movements and things. And
this morning, probably not too much time cumulatively, but he's like, pulls up the app on his phone. Look at this.
You know what? That's the pleasure part. That's the pleasure part,
I'm like,
right?
I'm not even awake yet. Like, you're putting numbers in my face. Like, leave me alone. I want to drink my tea, like, get caffeinated, get my day going. And it's just like a swirl of numbers. Like,
This is where your fencing skills come in.
That's right. Exactly.
all the note revenue came in for the, it was a lot. So it was kind of like, oh, look, it actually works, and apparently I was the only one who was thrilled about it. Whatever.
Well, I think there is something about feeling the pleasure of seeing something actually work out. Like, you put all this effort into it, or even not a lot of effort, but you follow some good advice and like it's paying off. It's paying off. How much?
I agree.
How much should you have 2 kids, right?
Yeah.
A 7 and a 4-year-old?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, good. How much should you help a kid, and how much do you talk with at least your 7-year-old, maybe your 4-year-old, about money?
Yeah, we started with our 7-year-old, so we need to help her because that kid is so entrepreneurial for some reason. She wants to go out and make money for herself doing something. I mean, she turned 7 yesterday, right? So we're talking very young.
Just turned 7. Cool.
She wants to bake cupcakes and sell them in the neighborhood. She wanted a lemonade stand, which of course is not possible in the age of COVID.
Right.
And she was like, she loves painting and things like that. She's like, can I sell my paintings like my dinosaur? It's like, geez, oh my gosh, like we got to help her out somehow.
Yeah. Well, we were perfecting that cupcake recipe, and we never got.
Yeah, we never quite. Never turns out,
It was getting better.
It's getting better, but yeah. So, but in terms of conversations, I feel like naturally, she's entrepreneurial. She is oriented towards saving, and it's almost to the point of like getting her to speak up for herself for what she wants, because even for her birthday, she's like, oh, get whatever you want. Well, if you want this or this, it's okay. Whatever whatever makes you happy or something. It's like, no, like, what do you want? So I think she's going to be entrepreneurial, a natural saver. And it's about, I don't know what to say. Like, it's like, you're worth it. You deserve this. And it's almost like the opposite of the problem that I thought we would have. She never asks for anything.
Yeah, it's like a grandma mentality. Like, oh, just get what you want, and I'll just eat it, or what. It's like, come on, it's what I expect from like my 80-year-old grandma. Like, I don't want to be any trouble. Just
she got some unicorn bracelets, and she took all of them to school to give them away to her friends, except for one. So
wow, yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, we'll see. The 4-year-old will probably be the opposite.
Be taking all the unicorn bracelets.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Well, let me ask you this: from your perspective, you've worked with a lot of different people around money and saving and coaching. What do you think it is that holds us back? What is the mindset that's keeping us from having all of our possibilities?
Can I say this one? Because I can draw a contrast, actually, because I've worked with different, it depends on the person. In some cases, people are driven more by the status and things like that. And they may make a lot of money, but they're not keeping any of it. Like as much as flows in, as much of it flows out, because of believing it's like, the quintessential keeping up with the Joneses kind of thing. And working with them and really like not going to frugality, but just shifting that around a little bit to really get crystal clear on what's important and what's really valuable and what's not, and can really make a dramatic transformation in terms of paying off tens of thousands of dollars worth of that and so on. But I've also worked with people, especially, women small business owners on the other side, where it's kind of the opposite of that. We're just so heart-centered and so giving and so, just not focused really on that bottom line and really keeping anything for themselves, and maybe not fiscally aware, like what service is actually profitable, which one's not. It's more like, well, whatever people need and what makes them happy. So then that's a different kind of conversation and work that we need to do as opposed to the first case. So yeah, it depends on the person.
Yeah, and I'd say too, like especially with some of the younger people I worked with, everyone just sees things through their own lens and their own group of friends and their own little circle. So if everyone in that circle is making $20 an hour or whatever, then they're like, yeah, I'm making 21, I'm winning. As opposed to, there's a whole nother paradigm of what you could have if you did different activities or different behaviors or added different value that, a chunk of people could attain if they even understood that it exists or what that mindset even looks like. So it's almost like peeling back, like, hey, someone comes to me, I want to be a millionaire by the time I'm 35.
Right.
Well, okay, you can be a millionaire, but you sure, is that really what you want? Like, what do you want your life to be? And how are you, and what are you going to change? Because it's going to be really tough if you're making $15 an hour. And I'm not saying it's impossible, but not an optimal route. How's that? You'd have to do a lot of different things. But just getting that out there, because so many people, if they're in a circle, like I went to a pretty bad high school, and like three convicted murderers in my senior year. Just 3. One's on death row.
Nice.
It's just, he almost got away with it. But so it was rough. But until I got to college, I thought everyone's experience was the same. I was 18 years old, and I was like, everyone went to like this kind of trashy, that was my world until I got exposed and then just opened my eyes to what's out there. And I think that's seeing that deeper vision, just further sight of what can be accomplished and what those real people are who are doing it and making it real. Getting that mindset.
That so much makes sense. I mean, I think what I'm hearing is expand the circle and expand the vision, because expand the lens so that we can actually, because I think that is true. I have people that say, I want to make $1 million by next week. Okay, well, let's figure out as an engineer, right? What are the steps to get us there? It's going to be a little difficult with just a week to get to $1 million without some major adjustments. So I think that's awesome. I could sit and talk to you guys for hours, and I'd love to sit in on your next family financial meeting because I'm a voyeur. And
That's right.
Where can people find you on social media?
So the best place is actually our website is moneyformeaning.com. Facebook, Money for Meaning as well. So I would say those would be the two places.
And also our book, Money for Meaning, is on Amazon.com. You can pick that up on any Amazon.com website. There's only one. And and also I've got one opening right now for personal coaching, and typically those are financial goals, but of course that goes into personal and professional goals as you go down that road. So if anyone's interested, you can reach out through the website. We've got information there.
Awesome. So coaching, books, and lots of wisdom. So check them out. So appreciate that. And I just want to then say to our listeners as well, don't forget to share the love. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Search for Money You Should Ask, all one word. You can subscribe to this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Spotify, or your favorite podcast player. And if you prefer to watch our episodes, you can head over to the YouTube channel and subscribe to our channel. Thank you both again, Mark, Mihaela. It was so awesome having you here. I'm so glad we got to have a second chance at this.
Yeah.
And I'll look forward to seeing you in Austin, if not before.
Definitely. Bob, thank you so much. We really enjoyed it.
Yeah, definitely. So Mark will be going to Austin by himself because, the little ones.
Somebody has to watch the kids and raise them with integrity.
Somebody has to watch. Yeah, someone has to raise them.
Road to build, yeah. I'll be having a drink for you, Mihaela.
Thanks.
Well, we will talk soon.
All right.
Take care.
Take care, Bob.